In this video, we're going to look at redox reactions, or reactions that involve oxidation and reduction. Recall that if something gets reduced, that means it gains electrons. And if something gets oxidized, that means it has lost electrons. So in the problems below, in the equations below, I want to identify the species being oxidized and the species being reduced in each of the following reactions. And that tells you an important thing, that these reactions are always linked together. That if an element or a compound gets oxidized and loses electrons, somebody else will accept those electrons or gain those electrons and get reduced. So I think it's important to think of these as always being paired together. In the first reaction, I see chromium ions reacting with tin ions to form different chromium ions and different tin ions. If we look at just one piece, just the chromium, it's going from chromium plus 1 to chromium plus 3. In order for that to happen, chromium must have lost electrons or gotten oxidized. Looking at the tin piece, tin goes from tin plus 4 to tin plus 2. In order for that to happen, it must have gained electrons. It must be getting reduced. In the second equation, we can do the same thing. We can look at the mercury, going from mercury plus 2 to mercury 0. In order for that to happen, mercury must have gained some electrons. That is to say, it must have been reduced. The iron goes from uncharged metallic iron to iron plus 3. In order for that to happen, it must have been oxidized and lost some electrons. The last thing we can do is look at these equations in parts, and that might make it easier to see. Let's consider the first reaction and consider just the chromium piece. Chromium yielding chromium plus 3, and also consider just the tin piece. Tin plus 4 yielding tin plus 2. Now the way to make chromium go from plus 1 to plus 3 is for it to lose 2 electrons. And the way for tin to go from plus 4 to plus 2 is for it to gain 2 electrons. And that might make it a little bit easier to see, where you can see the tin getting reduced or gaining electrons, and you can see the copper getting oxidized or losing electrons. These two words, reduction and oxidation, give us our term redox.